Hi, my name's Ryan Fgrave. I'm an Enterprise Mobility MVP and the host of the Community Tools Rural. Today I'm with Trevor Jones. Trevor's a SCCM administrator, and I'll give you some time here to introduce yourself, Trevor.
Hi, I'm a systems administrator working in the semiconductor industry. I have a lot of experience with SCCM and PowerShell in particular, and my official job title is Senior Windows Systems Administrator.
So, Trevor, how did you get into technology in general? Has it always been what you've been in your field, or how's that happened?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I haven't always worked in IT, but I've always had an interest in IT for sure. I think ever since I was a little boy, and my dad came home with a Sinclair ZX81. Don't know if you remember that system. One of the first portable home computers. So yeah, we learned some basic programming on that, and we even had a 16K RAM pack, which gave us the ability to play cool games like Bat and Ball and maybe even Pac-Man, I think, if I remember. Some years later, I think we upgraded to a Commodore 64, and that's when we really got into gaming and stuff. Yeah, and then during my school years, I was always on the computers. Like, yeah, in the lunchtimes, a friend of mine, we would try to hack into the school network, which we were partially successful in doing. And yeah, we always used computers a lot during my school years. I remember in my business studies course, even my teacher failed me on the course because I spent too much time with the computers and not enough time learning the course. Yeah, shame on me, but yeah, when I eventually did start my working life, I did a lot of work in administration. So I did a lot of temporary work, working for a lot of different organizations. It was very interesting, actually, meeting a lot of different people, getting to know a lot of different systems and processes. I eventually settled down into a permanent job as a technical administrator for a pharmaceutical company. Pharmaceutical companies, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're full of rules and regulations. You can't really blow your nose unless you follow the procedure. So it was a tough environment to work in, but still got a lot of good experience, actually, working with Microsoft Office products and with Access databases in particular. Had to do some design of some databases, which was good fun. And then the IT department where I was working found out that I had an interest in computers and some experience there, so they wanted to get me helping out with their desktop builds, which I started doing part-time using good old Norton Ghost. And eventually they took me on full-time in the IT department, where I was doing a support role for about 3 years, which was a steep learning curve for me at the time. But it was a lot of good experience as well, which I did appreciate that time in that company. But by the end of my time there, I was a bit sort of stressed, really, running around like a headless chicken, fixing other people's problems, and no real opportunity for me to progress in that role. So I decided to leave and go contracting, and the first company that took me on is the company I still work for today. So I started originally as a contractor and progressed into systems administrator full-time, and still doing that today. So.
Very nice. What technologies do you work with? Is it just SCCM and MDT or anything else?
Yeah, so some years ago, my boss approached me and said, look, we've got SCCM installed here, but it's sat there doing nothing. So I really want you to kind of work with this technology and maximize its potential in the company. So yeah, ever since then, it's been a major part of my job role to work with SCCM. Started originally with 2007 and then did the migration to 2012, and we are shortly planning a migration to current branch. Yeah, so also got involved with PowerShell somewhere along the way, and found a kind of talent for that, so I enjoy scripting quite a lot, and especially with SCCM, there's a lot of things you can do with PowerShell and SCCM together. So you find probably most of my blog posts are something of that, a combination of SCCM and PowerShell. So yeah, I do have experience with other technologies, particularly SQL Server, a little bit Exchange, VMware, Active Directory, usual sysadmin stuff, I guess.
All right. So you talked a little bit about PowerShell. How did you kind of get into making tools, and what was the first tool you made?
The first tool I made, actually, I haven't finished yet. I kind of bit off more than I can chew, really. It's a big project, but it's still actually the tool I use the most from day to day. So yeah, I would like to get that finished and maybe make a public version of that tool too. How I got into it is a great question. I think I was writing PowerShell scripts and then putting some UI elements into it, like just a combo box to select from a list, etc. Rather than having to do that in the console window. And I was looking a bit more into it and got learning about WPF and from some TechNet blogs. And then I discovered Bo Prox's excellent website where he talks a lot about WPF and how to use that with PowerShell. So yeah, pretty much my tool making was launched from there to where it is today. Yeah.
Very nice. So when you first started making tools, they were more for yourself, and then you decided to release them, or were they for also other coworkers, or?
Actually, most of my tools have had a business need in the organization I work for. So I've developed them for my own use and for other administrators in our company. But yeah, and some of them have been good enough to release a public version, so I decided to put it out there and see if others can benefit from it too.
So when you're developing tools, do you usually use like Visual Studio to create the user interfaces?
Yeah, definitely. Visual Studio is a very, very helpful tool. So to design the UI part of it, I'll use that. You can also use Visual Studio Blend. It's also very good for the UI design. But personally, I use Visual Studio just so I have the window of the XAML window and also the design window together on the same screen, which works very well, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So why don't we get into start showing your tools? Okay, so now we have your tools up and running, and so which one did you want to show us first?
Probably the task sequence monitor one.
Okay. So what was kind of the need that you had when you made this?
So this basically arose from not really being satisfied with the way SCCM natively handles task sequence or displays to you the results of the task sequence. Like you can go into the monitoring workspace and look at the deployments there. You can see the data for the task sequence, but it's not dynamic. You can't sort of pop it up there and let it refresh itself. And also I wanted to be able to have the capability of creating a deployment in another location and then monitoring it from my own workstation without having to be physically present there. So yeah, that's basically the idea of this tool. Also because it has a built-in refresh, so a minimum period of 1 minute, so it will just keep updating itself every 60 seconds. So you can get a pretty good overview of the deployment itself as it's running.
And so do you always run MDT or just SCCM by itself?
Yeah, we run NDT. Strongly recommend that just for the extra capability you get in the task sequences.
Mm-hmm. So are you able to load up the task sequence?
Yeah, so once you've added your SQL database connection to the tool, you can then select your task sequence from the list. And then in the computer name field, you should see a list of computers that's applicable for that task sequence. In this case, because we're not using MDT, the systems show up as unknown. The reason for that is because there's no data actually stored in the configuration manager database for a system until the client has been installed. So really, until the end of the deployment, you won't see the computer name. If you are integrating with MDT, then you will see the computer name straight away. So it's definitely better to do it that way.
So I see that you can mark errors only. What's the error count?
So in this case, we've got no errors, so not particularly helpful for demonstration. But if you take this box, if you do have errors in the task sequence, it will basically a filter that shows you just the error steps.
And what's error count? Will it only show you a certain number of errors?
Error count is basically the number of errors in that task
Okay.
sequence execution.
Um,
If there is an error, you'll see a little red cross over on the left-hand side instead of a green tick.
where are you getting this information from? Is this from WMI or from the SQL?
So it's coming directly from the Configuration Manager database. The reason for that is just speed, basically. It's a lot quicker than trying to access WMI on the site server. So you can also obviously run more complicated SQL queries that way.
So with this, you would need SQL read writes in order to be able to run this.
Exactly. It needs DB underscore data reader role in SQL.
Okay. So it says here you can generate a report over on the right side.
Yep. So let's go there and click that button. And then we can basically choose a task sequence. In this case, you've only got one task sequence, so it's not displaying as an array. It's not going to work.
Yes. So, yeah, most environments are going to have way more than one.
Yeah, it's a small bug in the code there. I need to change that, actually.
Okay. So that's very nice. Yeah, it's really a great tool for just seeing what's going on. How up to date is this information? Do you get this pretty much live, or is there like a minute or two delay, or?
So when the task sequence is executing on the system, once it's completed a step, it will then forward that information to the site server, and then that will get put straight into the database. So every time a step is completed, this tool can then grab the information for that step and add it to the list here. So if you've set your refresh period for a minimum of 1 minute, which is the lowest you can go, then every 60 seconds it will get the latest data from SCCM, and you can basically watch the task sequence as it's running. It's near real time, so.
Wow, so very nice. So this definitely is not the only tool that you do. What are some of the others?
Yeah, we also have the deployment reporter here. This is basically a tool that allows you to view the results of your deployments in SCCM. Of course, you can do that natively in the Configuration Manager console, again using the deployments node. But I had a few reasons to kind of take it out of that and put it into a standalone tool. One was I wanted to display the information a little bit differently. I wanted to create this separation that perhaps you can see on the screen there between applicable systems and reporting systems. So applicable systems is all the systems that are applicable for that deployment, whereas the reporting systems doesn't include the unknown systems. So it's a little bit of a logical separation, but it allows you to see a bit better when the deployment is running, what the actual success rate of your deployment is. And sometimes, if you've got an unhealthy environment, you've got systems that are stale records in SCCM or in Active Directory, they're going to show up here in this unknown field, which you don't necessarily want to include that in your results. So you have the option there to display it both ways, which I think is very useful.
Very nice. So so you can do pretty much all types of deployments with this reporter, right?
Yeah, so it's the big five: applications, packages, compliance baselines, software updates, and then task sequences.
Does this give you all the same data on task sequences that the previous tool does?
Pretty much, except that it doesn't obviously integrate with MDT, and it's not dynamic, so it's just a static view of the task sequence status.
So why would you want to run this tool instead of, say, a report? Is it like the refresh on it? Is this more meant for troubleshooting issues?
So in this tool, I've created a couple of extra features that I wanted to have that's not really available in the built-in console in SCCM. One is to export the data. So you can, if, for example, you've got systems in an error state and you want to sort of filter them by a list of error codes, for example, you can just export that to CSV with a click of a button and then work on all those systems individually. You can also create a HTML-style report, which is basically an overview of the deployment. And for us, that's useful because managers, if they want to see the results of a deployment, they don't really want the details. They just want to see something graphical, a chart, and the overview of the status of the deployment. That's it. So, yeah.
Figured I'd pull up some data here, and you can filter this by deployment type even for applications.
Yeah, I actually like to report that way, so you can see, for example, if you've got an x86 deployment or a 64-bit deployment, they're actually two separate deployments, really, so you want to be able to see the results for each one individually.
Okay, and then in the upper bit, you have a report where you can generate an HTML report, which will have your graphics and everything.
Exactly, if you want to click on that button, you can see what the report looks like. It'll generate dynamically depending on what's displaying in the application at the moment.
Yeah, so we get some nice information there. Unfortunately, since this is my test environment, everything is successful. I need to create some errors.
Yeah. Green is good, right?
Right. All right. And so then, what is this other tool? So those two are centered around reports, but you also have more tools. You have some for diagnosing problems on the computer, right?
Yeah, I find myself doing a lot of troubleshooting in my role, so I created these tools to kind of help with that process. This particular one we're looking at now, System Explorer, basically exposes WMI Win32 class. It's a kind of WMI Explorer. In the source list there, you can choose between WMI. The first option there just gives you some of the key things that you might want to see from a system. The full option will give you a lot more classes from WMI Win32. It doesn't include all of them because some of them take forever to enumerate, so I've excluded all the ones that might take too long. But there's still a lot of information you can get there from a system. If you've got PowerShell remoting enabled in your environment, you can connect to a remote system and also get information from it that way. It also integrates with SCCM, so if you put your SCCM database details in there, you can basically connect to the database and get the hardware inventory information from it, which is useful if your target system is not currently online. You can still get that information from that system from the database.
So if I put in this SCCM data, so we save it, close it, and then I'm able to change source to configman database here.
Yep.
And is this also going to show me the historical data?
No, it's just the current
Just
data.
live? Yeah.
Not all of those entries will be populated. Depends on how your hardware inventory is configured in SCCM.
So this is a nice way to just get quick data without having to actually have the full console installed.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, we can just click around. It's always hard to remember what's actually being collected in a environment. All right. When you develop these tools, you use Visual Studio to create the UI. What do you use to write the PowerShell code?
Yeah, I use the standard ISE, so it's a lot better nowadays than what it was when it first came out. So it's a plenty good enough tool to use. I also use ISE steroids for some of the advanced features that you haven't got built in. That is also a very good tool. So yeah, those two.
Yeah, that's a really big tool set that I know a lot of people love, the ISE steroids. Then you also have one other tool. With this tool, the reliability viewer, what were you trying to do with this?
So this was basically, it came from the need of wanting to get reliability data from remote computers. You may be familiar with the built-in tool in Windows called Reliability Monitor. It basically gives you a kind of a graph overview over time of the major events that have happened on your system, like, for example, software installations, software update installations, application hangs, application crashes, things that you might typically want to see when you're troubleshooting a system. The big drawback of the built-in tool is that you cannot use it to connect to a remote computer. So with this tool you can connect to a remote system using PowerShell remoting, grab the same reliability data, which is actually stored in WMI, and just display it there in that grid view. You can use the filters at the top to the filter for events or time periods, etc.
Okay, and this list of events is all generated based off what's an event viewer, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much major events in the event viewer. Anything that could affect the system. It just makes it easier, really, than having to connect to the event viewer of a system and trying to scroll through all the different, the logs, trying to find an issue. It's more easier to pick it out using this tool.
So with this tool, it's mostly going to be about applications on the system, right? Or would it also show Windows OS specific data?
Yeah, it's both application and system events. So, for example, if the system rebooted unexpectedly, it would be listed there also.
Is that under Windows? Oh, Windows Maps. I know that's been causing issues for me on this computer. So with these, when you do like view summary, what is this showing me?
It's basically grouping together all of the different events based on the product name, the source, the event ID, etc. Telling you how many events of that kind has occurred, which can be useful in troubleshooting. For example, you've got a recurring problem on the system. It's going to tell you how many times that problem has occurred, so it should make it easier to identify it. Just click the window to close it.
Oh, you just click it? Okay. And then when you do the stability chart, this is going to require Excel?
Yeah, so it creates a chart based on the reliability metrics for that system. It uses Microsoft Excel to do that. You just load it up as a COM object and then manipulate it to create a chart. So the reliability metrics for your system there is very good. We've got a score of 10.
How does it make this score? Is this something inside of Windows?
Yeah, exactly. It calculates it based on the number of events that have happened on your system that it thinks could cause an issue, or so.
Okay. So these tools are very nice. Are there any other kind of tools that you have created that are on your site, or what other types of tools do you like to work on?
Well, I have a number of tools that I've created for our use internally. Some of them not really applicable for external release. Some of them somebody else has already done a similar tool. Like, for example, I created a tool that gets the Dell warranty for your Dell systems. So you just pop in a computer name, and then it will go to SCCM, grab the service tag of the system, and uses the Dell web service to get the warranty results. Yeah, but actually, a former guest of yours, Nikolai Anderson, also has a very good tool out there which does that. So, yeah. His also integrates with the Configuration Manager console, which is pretty cool.
So a lot of yours are based around reports. Is that a thing that you do a lot, at least for your job? You are kind of in charge of doing reports.
Well, it's more of a case of I like to see information. I like to have visibility of what's going on in SCCM. I do a lot of custom reporting, not using the SQL reports, but basically creating my own SQL queries and then put that into a HTML email report and just send that to interested parties on a regular basis. It gives us good visibility of what's going on in SCCM, including deployments or pretty much anything you want to see, any information you can grab out of the database.
So I have a question. I'm not sure, kind of put you on the spot here, but if like an SCCM product team came to you and said, hey, what one feature do you want added to SCCM? What would that be?
Oh, it'd have to be integrate my task sequence monitor into your console.
Yeah, because that will give you plenty of information. I'm always annoyed by that because they have the task sequence data, they have it live, they just don't show it anywhere.
Exactly, yeah.
All right. Do you use any, so in terms of when you're actually working, you use the ISE and you use Visual Studio. Do you have any sort of like source control that you use? Do you have gotten into it that far?
I did experiment with, there's some built-in source control using the ISE steroids, basically creating script versions. I haven't done anything like Git. No, so really it's just basically I create a version of a script, save it, create a new version, save it. Yeah, old school stuff.
Okay. So when you're coding, what actual computer languages do you know? Is it PowerShell and what else?
So I know very little C#. I wish I did. I probably would code my tools in C# if I knew the language a bit better. But just PowerShell basically. Yeah, just spend many a night trying to figure out how to create tools using PowerShell and.
I mean, it's never just PowerShell since that's pretty powerful on Windows.
Well, in some of the tools I've integrated third-party WPF styling. As you can see, those styles in the tools we demonstrated were quite nice, but that's not sort of built-in capability. That's coming from a third-party add-in, if you like.
Very nice. Are you working currently on any tools at all, like that would be for a public release, or are you looking for like the next thing to create?
Yeah, so again, the first tool I started to create, I really would like to get finished. It's quite a good tool. I use it every day. It's kind of a window into your configuration manager client and gives you a lot of useful information and kind of a tool set that you can use as well for troubleshooting. So you could view basic hardware inventory, collection membership, Active Directory group membership, local administrator membership. You can view software updates from various sources, so it could be client WMI, it could be the config manager database, it could be using the Windows Update API. It's got a built-in event viewer, so you can get events from a remote system. It's a little bit quicker than running the built-in Windows event viewer. Also, you can query WMI on a remote system. You can query SQL database. And some other tools makes it easier to access the log files from a remote computer as well. It just presents you a list of the log files on that system, and you just click on it, open it up. Yeah, and lots of the scripts that I've created for using with SCCM, I kind of would like to integrate into that tool, so they're all in one sort of window. Yeah, it's a lot of work to get that done.
So that was the first tool you decided to make?
Yeah, in at the deep end, right?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people start with like Hello World or something simple. We decided for a whole set of tools.
Yeah, not me.
Very nice. Well, how do people kind of keep in contact? Are you active in the community in terms of user groups? Do you go to speaking or?
Not really. Not really active on any forums. I do have my blog, obviously, which I try to update as frequently as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my tools are published as well. We do have a user group here in the UK, which I haven't actually visited any of their meetings yet. Should get along to that.
All right. So yeah, what's the site of your blog? It's
So it's smsagent.wordpress.com.
a lot of times I ask people how they came up with the name for their blog, but that's pretty obvious for you.
Yeah, right.
Very nice. So I think that that's all that we have. So thank you for being on.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Yeah, and so the next podcast we'll be interviewing Garth Jones. It'll actually be a live interview. I'm going to meet him up in Portland for the MVP Summit. So that'll be nice. And yeah, thank you, Trevor.
Thank you.